My name is Lawrence Wells, and I'm from Unamagi here in Cape Breton. And we're in Member 2 First Nation. And I was born here, I was brought up here. And like I was telling Lisa, I'm a nomad, and I traveled around when I was younger. And but basically, I came back. And I've worked in several areas of Cape Breton here. And up here in Cape Breton, right now I'm doing addiction work for the last 15 years with native alcohol and drug abuse counseling, and going on another, I don't know, 13, 14 years with Member 2 of the same thing, but with the culture component. And I have a buddy there who does the Western part, so both of us are Western and me cultural. So that's what we do here. I'm an elder in resident at CBU once a week. I used to go there twice a week, but it's just too hard. We need more of a social work here in Member 2. I was first introduced at Red Rose Project going back a few years, about 6 or 7 years ago, with Lorianne Sylvester, the principal of the school here. And my role was to educate and our future youth. And what I was doing was being part of the circle with the kids. I would do talking circles, storytelling, and go on the field trips. How to put up the teepee the proper way, and putting up the teepee, I would tell us what the teepee is about, because our teepees represents grandmother's skirt. And grandmother's skirt will protect you even from your own parents, and she'll spoil you, right? And depending on the size of the teepee and the number of poles, there's a story in everything that you do when you construct the teepee. Each pole has a story. Each one has a direction, and a virtue. And the way our teepee is situated, I always face the east. And, that's where the sun rises in the east, and of course it gives light and warmth to Mother Earth. And of course, in the direction of the east has many stories too. Like we have Boogwes in that east, which is I don't know, called maybe Bigfoot because it teaches honesty. We have the turtle in the same direction as one of the oldest of our ancestors, and that's has teachings of the truth. And of course, the golden eagle has teachings of love, in that direction. And of course, in the direction of the south, we have the brown bear has teachings of courage, and the buffalo has teachings of respect, and of course, the wolf has teachings of humility. And of course, in the west, we have teachings of courage by the black bear, and the bald eagle has teachings of love. And of course, in the north, we have teachings of the white beaver, Gobit, and has teachings of wisdom. So then we have 7 sacred teachings there, and they all belong in the teepee. And that was my role with the kids, and also doing talking circles. We might have our directions in the teepee, and maybe we have a sacred fire. And when we have the kids together, usually 4 days, 3 or 4 days, we'll make a sacred fire, and that's another teaching from tobacco and how to make the fire. Because I'm a firekeeper also, so my teachers come from Mi'kmaq, Mohawk, Ojibwe. So all these teachings that I got over the years come from a mixture, but they're basically all the same. And so I'm a firekeeper. I'm also a lodge keeper. So I've earned that role way back when our future youth were had ideations way back when, and we got together with their Squatage. Squatage are Mohawks, and they're our former enemies in history. Mi'kmaq, and that goes back, but that's another story. But in time when we know that our future youth were in trouble, we had to get our bundles together and our medicines and work together to save our youth. And I think the first program we did was called Voices of Tomorrow. And we had some people come in here and help us with teachings and get our bundles back and earn our pipes and rattles and so on. And so what we had to deal with some of our some programs out in Elzebuktu, and we had sweat lodge ceremonies, we had feasting, we had naming ceremonies, and talking circles, storytelling, and so on. And this here helps our. We're helping our youth. You know, we still do that today. You know, we still run sweat lodges. And way back when, there wasn't too much of it, but maybe in the other reserves like the sweat lodges. So in order to earn the sweat lodge, you have to take a 4-day fast without food and water in the mountains. Well, here in the mountains, because this is Unamagi territory. We have a lot of mountains, and it's Unamagi. And the time we done it here, it was in around October, November, and we had, with the help of the Mohawk teachers, we all gathered and we exercised all these teachings and the proper way to put up a teepee, the proper way to harvest poles, harvest sticks, and using the medicines all in together. Like when we go out the woods and we're going to prepare for to make a sweat lodge because it represents a sacred lodge. The womb represents the womb of mother. Okay, when we have tobacco and you earn tobacco or given tobacco for what you do to help people. And so when you come on to we use alder, and sometimes we use tamarack or depending. But I used alder at the time, and because alder is a medicine, the bark is a medicine. It's very strong and it's very flexible. And then you offer tobacco and talk to them because they're alive, and you talk to the standing ones, and because you're going to ask permission to harvest the rest of the trees, but the one you talk to, you don't cut down. You're asking permission, and you give something back. You give tobacco back with prayer and respect. And when we get enough, we get people together and get a red cloth, and we will construct a sweat lodge together. Because we can't do it alone. You got to have help. And that's the way our culture is. And when we make the holes in the ground, we usually make 13 holes in the ground. Everything has a story in what it represents. The circle always represents maybe a year, just like the teepee. All the virtues, the stories. In each hole you make, you offer tobacco and ask forgiveness, or all my relations, respect all around relations, because you are injuring Mother Earth, and offer tobacco, prayer to each hole, and so on. And while you're doing that, you teach the kids. They observe, and after you do that, we try to get everybody red cloth. We use red cloth. I've been taught that, and each one ties pieces together. Then you give a ribbon to somebody else, and I tell them each one you tie, say a prayer. Maybe you got somebody that's sick in your family. Maybe your mom, dad, a brother. Maybe somebody has cancer. But I always find people that come to our lodges will pray for somebody else. But that's how our people are. They're the last. So if I have 4 rounds, I always have 4 rounds in the sweat, and I always save the last round for the individual because they are all busy caring people. Even the youth. They're caring, and I always save the last round for the individuals. So when we build a lodge, put the cover on, there's a lot of protocols, a lot of preparing. You gotta get the fresh water. You gotta have the medicine like weegua soup, that's beaver root or muskrat root. Fresh water. Cedar doesn't grow in Cape Breton, Unamagi, and we usually get somebody to bring it in from New Brunswick, And even the grandfathers, we have to go to Parsboro. It's called Partridge Island, and that's Glooskap's grandmother's melting pot. That's another story. And we bring the grandfathers from there, and we use them in our lodge. We can get them as yellow hot, and they're you can use them over again. Some people use them over again, and in the bundles, our pipe, our rattle, our drums. There's so much. And the reason I say hours, because all these things that I fasted for maybe 3 days, maybe 4 days, our pipe, our rattle, or our medicines, they don't belong to me. They belong to all of us, because that's our culture. We're supposed to share our medicines. And I have no ownership on them. They're ours. They're ours to use. The project with the youth, we had teepees given to every reserve. And my role was to go on the reserves, and usually the leader of the Red Road Project group, they would have a leader, and they would represent the other youth, and there'd be one in each reserve. And when you teach them how to put up the teepee, because they have one in their communities, I had the pleasure of going out to each reserve and maybe spend the night, and because Lorianne probably arranged a place for me to stay and have my meals. Oh, it was fun. And to meet people all the time. Like, I was never a stranger when you come to a community. You never feel a stranger because they're Ilnu, or red man like me, and meet the kids. And, as a member of the community there, I received my name when I went to when I earned our lodge, when I earned our sacred fire, and I still have them teaching. So I'm getting of a age now that I got to pass it down. I got to pass it down to somebody, and I know a lot of youth, but they'd have to do the same as I do. They got to take a 4-day fast, and they might have to have a sweat to earn their bundle. And of course, you receive gifts all the time when you do this type of work, and you save some. After a while, your bundle grows. You go somewhere and do something for someone to help them, and you might get tobacco, you might get sage, you might get a little item. I have some things here I got over the years. They're little gifts, but I always say, hey, I don't own them. They belong to all of us. I pass them on. And the kids, they would have a talking circle, and like we have something coming up in Orangedale there in July. And last year we had one there, and we've been to Bear River with Frank Muse. And when we go out there in that area, we tell the kids not to bring any electronics or anything like that, and no junk food. And there's no electricity out there, maybe except for emergency. And we have camps like teepees, and we have some lodges there, and a few cabins. And it's very well prepared by Frank Muse in that area. And, last few years we haven't been out there, but Frank is a very good provider and storyteller, and awesome person. And always has a story. When they came up there and we were told that nobody's allowed electronics, and I think he had some of the local boys, and they had somebody carve a phone and leave it at the doorway. Well, not just the doorway, just a bunch of trees, and said, just pretend to call one just in case you have a withdrawal. Or he's an awesome person. But I miss that area, because I used to go there a few years with the kids, and I think it's about 6 or 7 years now we've been doing it. And, the last trip I had was just last month. But I got sick there. I had a bowel obstruction. That happened 3.5 years ago. But that happens, you know, he gets sick. So I end up in the hospital over there, and that's where I left Jordy and Pat. I couldn't do a sweat that night. Yeah. We just came from Parsboro with Gerald Glode. He's a geologist. He's an awesome person, you know, good teacher. And I've known Gerald for quite a few years. And he tells us a story in the history of the area, you know, where dinosaur bones can be found and gemstones. And while we were there, the kids had found some amethyst, and you know, very interesting person. And he knows of a lot of people that in that area that were like Eldon George. He's a geologist, and he had worked with him and for years. That's a historic place. And the kids, they're just awesome. Everyone has a gift and a story. I know when you listen to them you know, in the teepee, we used to have our talking circles, our opening prayers, daily. This had to be daily, you know, before breakfast, early in the morning, before breakfast. They'd have a talking circle, just check up, see how everybody's doing, and you know, keep in contact and keep in touch. And sometimes there's, you know, kids are so gifted, and somebody would bring a drum. Maybe somebody has a story to tell, or somebody has a song to sing, or you know, a story to tell. You know, and it's not just I'm not just there as an elder, but as an observer, I learn so much from the kids too, by their behavior. And of course, Frank would probably invite somebody in that specializes in making canoes and in the history, like Todd Labrador from that area. Oh, what an awesome teacher he is too. You know, he'll bring the canoe, and I think he has some in the museum. He has a couple. I know he has one canoe there in one of the museums there, and he does other things too. You know, like he would make little baskets and so on with pine pitch and the root and his I knew his father, you know, way back when, the philosophies of his father, you know, they still remain with us today. And he was really in touch with nature. And there was another gentleman that brought in how to make fire with friction or flint, and making tea, making bannock and cooking bannock, or you know, making it on the spot. Teachings like that, and then we have another gentleman by one of Frank's brothers there, Dusty. He would make. He brought teach us how to make flowers, or the wooden flowers, and, you know, and basket making. Somebody would come in and teach us how to make basket making. And a few of the elders down that way, like Gold River and areas like that, we had. Gee, Mrs. Morris come in. We used to have another old fellow that came in, but he passed on. But you know, there's so many teachings. And youth, they're game for anything. They challenge their fears. And of course, I would run a sweat too. So usually, if we have something going on, I would conduct a sweat and have the kids help me put it together. If it's not all together, you know, the kids already know what to do if they've been there the second or third year. I was an addiction counselor here for the last few years. You know, I find that kids are more comfortable with each other. You know, growing up on an outside community for years, I felt so there was no guidance counselors and nobody to really understand what Indigenous people think. Because we're being so unique now. When Aboriginal people and youth get together, they like to do things together, you know. And I think when they're doing something for the first time, it's like what do you call that? You know, when you go and hunt. when you go out and get your first hunt and first harvest, you're recognized by the community as doing something that you're supposed to do, and you're appreciated and you're honored. We got to get back some of them teachings. I know right now we haven't done too much of that. Like listening to the elders sometime. The first time when they were born, their mother took them and put their head on Mother Earth. This is your true mother, and the connection. Teach them back that you're connected to Mother Earth because she gives us so much, so much of the teaching, so much of the life. And seeing kids today, like going back to going to school and doing things together, I find that it's growing. Even the powwow, when you go to powwows here, like I remember when they had the first powwow, there was a few kids there, and that. And the kids are more westernized, they were teasing them, making fun. Now or today we're a little more thick-skinned, and I see more kids today that appreciate who they are and their culture. I've seen little kids this small going up there with their little fan, and it's awesome feeling to see that because I carry a staff at the powwow for years, and I've seen a lot of growth, a lot of hope. I think every community has their kid like that that's outgoing, and ready to challenge life, because they notice that Western life is really hasn't doesn't have that much to offer as far as our culture. This is our culture: dance, song, storytelling, field trips, harvesting, adventures. You know, this is our life. I'm sure everybody else has life. No, not disregarding. Not dishonoring anybody else. Or anybody else's culture. They too have drums. The black man has a drum. The white man has a drum. The Irish. And the yellow man. We all have drums. We're all connected to Mother Earth. Sometimes people ask, you know, you got to remember, they're all introduced, and we can connect and say, you too have a drum. You're connected to the drum beat when you're in your mom's womb, whether you're black, white, red, or yellow. And today now we have mixed marriages and so on. We have rainbow warriors out there, just like that ribbon on the table there. That's our children today. They're still our little warriors. And they do carry on our messages, our stories, our drums, our dancing, and our language. And language is pretty important too. We carry the seven sacred teachings already, to be properly, like the four directions, like I told you about the teepee and the directions, the pole, the virtues, these things. And we have elders, and we have educators and teachers in the college that compare the teachings of our elders. A lot of this, a lot of what we do is already similar to what Western science has offered, because like Albert and Medina, they introduced two-eyed seeing program with Professor Sarah Bartlett at CBU. They take the best of Western knowledge and the best of from the elders and put it together. I think something like that would be important. So, because we speak English today, and that's a voice we have to hold on to. But Mi'kmaq too is our language here. But there's other languages too we speak too, like French too. A lot of our words are French. And kids today, they can. I remember one fellow that would have graduated, Maxwell. Holy God, he's learning Chinese. I don't know why. I never asked him, but that's him, I said, holy God, this is a challenge for him, I guess, because he's ready to study and a challenge for him. Each individual challenge, I guess. I think it's up to us, to encourage it also, We encourage more teachings. Learn to listen and listen to learn. I think it teaches the youth to be proud of who they are. They too are very important in our culture. They're the next future generations of our youth, our future youth, and the future youth, the next group coming, because they have a leader, and before you know it, they're too old to stay in it, and somebody else comes in, and it's time for him to move on, him or her, and to be an educator, go to school, go to college, be an educator again. It's just part of growing. It's growth, a stepping stone, not a stumbling block, a stepping stone. It's just a matter of how you view it. And I enjoy the youth. I enjoy telling stories. I like to tell stories sometimes. Like and kids, they have so much. They're so they're so honest with questions sometimes. Sometimes they'll give you a question that'll stump you.